Auth66. I took a break on the weekend. And then Monday was my wedding anniversary. So I took a break because I was off celebrating during the day. And then, I don't know, at least my head was like kind of super jumbled. My gallbladder's been acting up again. And I just kept on taking a break. I think that's okay. I think sometimes when everything's a little bit crazy, you know, you can just take some time for yourself and not necessarily relax, but just sit in whatever situation you're going in and maybe reduce the noise, probably the best way to put it. Reduce the noise so you can really tap into yourself and think about what you need. That's what I've been doing, is a lot of soul searching. I don't think I'm done, but I sometimes find that helpful. And so I was like, ooh, how do I start this back? You know, it can be hard when you feel defeated by you missing something. I think technically the challenge says I'm supposed to start over from the beginning, but Eric, I'm sorry, that's not happening. I'm so close to the end. I'm sure it won't be the last time I also miss a day. I've got some travel coming up next week. But today I was just drawn back to talking, and this is kind of how I hope it goes after I'm done with the actual challenge of speaking every day. But I was drawn into having to post because I saw something on LinkedIn that made me angry. And not angry because I was actually angry at someone, but more angry at complacency. So I'm going to try and word my post where I can let my passion out, but I'm not calling anybody out specifically because I don't think that's actually helpful. But maybe calling out the behavior, because I think it's really easy. So let me get into this. It might be a little bit spicy. It's not Monday, but yeah, I think this is an important thing to say. I think specifically in our industry, we need to get really careful about the shoulds and the patting ourselves on the back for being amazing or different, when really what we're saying we should be doing is like the most basic thing. And there was a post that went up that was like, look at our company, we're awesome, we have this, and you know, this is what really sets us apart. And when I looked at what it was, I was like, that's like something that, never mind the MSP space, every company should have. And maybe you've done a good job at, you know, really honing it in on for yourself, and that's something to celebrate. Sure, celebrate it. But I kind of find bringing that to social media and saying like, look at how amazing we are. It's not like, it wasn't a celebration. It was like, this is what makes us different, is that we have this basic thing. And I was going, okay, one, either what you're saying is true. And then should we be celebrating mediocrity in terms of what should be expected? And again, that's super abrasive to say it like that, but I don't really think that, you know, it's like saying, look at me, I have a business plan. I have a business and I've got a business plan and I should be celebrated. No, that's mediocrity. That's basically what you need to be doing in business, right? So I don't know, like you could say, we put all this hard work into it and I'm really happy that we did this hard work and I feel solid about what, you know, we have in here. But it you know, it shouldn't be like, we're so amazing because we did a business plan and we're gonna like, you know, we're gonna be so much better than everybody else because I have this. And the thing is that like, what really makes me angry about this, it's a complacency that exists, right? Like the reason why this person was celebrating this thing that I look at as like a basic thing is because they were looking around at everybody else in their market and going, look, they don't have that. Like we've got something better than them. You know, and I guess for me, I always look at it like, if you want to go ahead and do market research and understand what you're coming up against, wonderful. But if you want to be the best version of what you can be, you can't be always going, what is everybody else doing? You have to be thinking about how you can innovate for yourself, for your clients. You have to be approaching things with creativity. And again, this is my definition. That's why I say it's spicy, because, you know, everybody's going to tell you that you should follow a framework, and frameworks have their place. There's no argument for me for that. I like structure. I will always advocate for structure. But I don't think that celebrating, this thing that it's like saying we're amazing because we're an MSP. You know what? Maybe 10 years ago that would be a differentiator, right? But if we really want to talk about what's happening in the industry, and it's something that we hear from all of partners that we deal with in our peer groups and whatnot, that the business overall closing is down. It's just a thing in the industry. And it's probably because there's a shift that needs to happen in terms of how we're selling or how we're having conversations with clients. That's something that, we've been looking at internally for some time. But that being said, like you can't, I'm trying to think of how I want to put this. You can't always do things the way that they've always been done. You can't just look at, what's worked and say, I'm going to keep doing that because it's tried and proven. You have to constantly, reevaluate. Is this working right now? And it doesn't mean you have to change the whole structure, but you can make small changes. You can make little different incremental changes. But if you're always looking at what someone else is doing, instead of how you can make yourself better, that's going to be hindered. If you congratulate yourself, at least we're not as bad as that person. I mean, is that really the yardstick that we as an industry want to be measuring ourselves by? Is that really advocating for being at the front of how things are changing and this new technological landscape with cybersecurity being, the last trend, but now the newest trend being AI? Do we want to be in this position where we're, thinking that the bare minimum of as long as we're not as bad, like the old adage about outrunning a bear, as long as, we're faster than the person beside us? I don't want to be. And I don't want to be publicly saying, this is what makes us great, when it's literally the same thing. It's like you go on to about a bajillion MSPs websites and they're like, we're your IT partner. I'm pretty sure ours says the same thing, right? And while that might be true, and it might be something we need to talk about from a sales perspective, but it's not a differentiator anymore. Many more MSPs are actually looking at what that looks like, right? And doubling down on how do we get involved in business. And I think if we're really going to capture the hearts and minds of this next wave of consumer and what the new world looks like, as an industry, we really need to be looking at what we're accepting, if that makes sense. What we're putting out there as the status quo. And even then, I hate saying that because I think that might be part of the problem, is that it doesn't take into account enough of the individuality of the businesses that are out there. One of the things that I get kind of passionate about is the size of organization that most MSPs are willing to deal with. I get it. I get that there's not economies of scale under certain numbers, but then what about all those people that their business falls underneath that? How do they get help? How do they move ahead? We just say, forget it. And then we all go after, this small little chunk of business. I don't know. There's a lot of things that are poking around in my head. A lot of things that are surprises to me. But when I see people talk publicly and say things like, it'd be like saying, look at us, we're amazing because we have staff. It doesn't mean anything. None of that means anything. What it means is that you paid somebody to do a job. A business owner, a successful business owner, needs to be profitable, needs to inspire their staff, however the size of it, to be able to show up and do their job and do the best that they can for clients, the greatest that they can for the clients, and be happy while doing it, right? That's like the bare minimum of what we can expect. And everything else after that is a conversation about how we want to do it. But please don't congratulate yourselves or become complacent, because that's how, as an industry, we end up being left behind. I want to advocate as much as possible for really looking at what we can be doing to be differentiators. Now, if you think I'm going to tell you what it is that I think that we do as a differentiator, you can forget it. Get your own. But I want to encourage people in the spiciest way to not become complacent and ask yourselves, not how can I be better than those around me? It's how can I be better than I was yesterday? How can I move forward in a way where I'm learning and I'm growing, and where even if I'm taking a moment and I'm putting myself into a holding pattern so I can re-strategize, whatever it looks like, don't rest on your laurels. Don't tell yourself that, you know, it's fine. It's just a blip. It's whatever. Always be pushing, because business demands that. You know, an MSP is a business. It's not, you know, just a technological adventure. It's a real life business, and you need to be looking at what kind of hat it requires to wear that in order to run it, because that's essential for all business. Anyway, that's my spicy rant for today, if that's spicy. But if you think I'm talking about you, I'm probably not, because the person whose comment I saw was actually outside my network, but still ironed me enough to want to come here and say that. I think if you're running a race against people around you, you've already lost. You really need to be running a race against yourself. That's my take for today. Welcome back to my Auth66s.